What is up there, guys, and welcome back to the channel as always. Okay, so in today's video we're going to discuss on why some companies like to stay private rather than go public. Now we know there are at least dozens of companies that are public out here in the United States, but there are also those few companies that rather stay private at the same time. So you might be asking yourself, why do some companies stay private while others don't? Because there's also plenty of great companies as well that are private that I wish we could invest in, but we just simply can't. Companies such as Albertsons, HEB, Uber, Quick Trip, Levi, and much more. So again, we'll break down on why some companies rather stay private than go public, okay? Okay, so why would companies rather stay private than public? Now, we know for a fact that most companies were created by raising capital through public markets, because it basically allows the public market to fund these companies on a day-to-day basis, thus to let their companies grow even more. Because you see, when a company decides to go public, it basically receives its funds from shareholders, aka you and I. So we decide to buy, through stocks from these companies that decide to go public. They get their money from us. So that's one reason why some of these companies don't stay private, simply because they rather go public and they use some of this capital. Now, as I'm saying this, some of you may be thinking, well, if the company's basically getting some free money, why don't all companies just decide to go public? And well, to put it in simple terms, guys, it's really like this. While this may sound like a good thing, there's some companies that also understand that going public comes at a peak little price, okay? Because you see, by staying private, companies do not have to report to a large group of shareholders and are able to keep their business plans and finances private, okay? So you know how it goes with public stocks, right? Every quarter they got to release their earnings and everything, basically all the records showing how they've been performing, how much profit they've been making and whatnot. Well, these private companies, they don't want to report any of that, okay? They'd rather keep that to themselves, I guess you can say, and stay privately. So by not going public, they don't have to release any of these at all. Because you see, while also staying private, companies are not subject to securities and SEC rules, which again require annual reportings and whatnot. So it's this main factor right here that keeps these companies private. Now, although they get to keep their records private, it comes to a certain point with some companies that if they may need more capital, then they may decide to go public in order to gain more capital from shareholders. Take for example, UPS. Back then it was actually a private company, but in order for them to grow more into providing international shipping, they had to go public in order to raise more capital. So by doing this, it kind of helped them grow more. Thus, it benefited both sides of the party here, okay? One side was able to buy shares, and the other was able to grow their businesses. So a win-win situation. Now, for the companies that do need capital and rather stay private, you may be thinking, well, how else are they going to raise money then if they don't get it from the public? Well, these private companies, they can usually tap into commercial lines of credit when needed with banks that they have established relationships over the past years. So if they've been with a certain bank and they need more capital, they can just simply open another credit line and boom, just borrow the money from them, thus growing their business even more. So it really just depends on each company if they would just rather raise capital through the public market or just borrow a line of credit. That's really all it comes down to, guys. And really, that's just the main reason here on why companies rather stay private. Really just so that they do not have to report any of their earnings or anything. They'd rather just keep it simple, stay on their own, and focus on their business and just keep it growing. Now, as far as investing in a private company, it's a little bit more tougher when trying to invest in some of these private companies, but there are some ways in which you can invest with them. And some companies usually offer ownership to outside parties or to their own employees. Now, if you are in a company where you can buy that company's shares, privately, then you must also be prepared to accept the valuations and terms that that company dictates, okay? So depending on their terms and conditions, I would read that really carefully before deciding to actually buy some shares of that company, because who knows what's under the fine print. So just be sure to read that in case your company or anything decides to actually offer that to you. Now, when owning some of these shares in a private company, it actually gives you more bit of an advantage, especially if the company decides to go public, because you know what's going on the inside. So as soon as that company decides to go public, it's basically going to attract shareholders to buy more of that stock. And if it keeps raising and you had shares when they were at the bottom, I mean, you could essentially sell those shares when they're at the top and make some profit from that. But again, it just all depends, it varies, and maybe it's just a quick, nice way to make a few bucks or so. But yes, guys, this is why companies decide to stay private. Again, it's mainly just to keep their records to themselves. They don't got to report to anybody, and it just makes it simpler for them. Anyways, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a like. If there's any companies that you were interested in investing but they're private at the moment or something, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what companies you might be interested in. And if you haven't already, guys, be sure to hit the subscription button down there so you can stay notified of more videos in the future. Anyways, I'll see you guys later.